Welcome to this explainer. All right, if you want to completely challenge your basic perception of reality today, you are in the exact right place. We're going to be unpacking a truly mind-bending text by the author Form Buddha, and it's called Concealment, Advanced Cultivation 4. Now, we aren't talking about high-tech cloaking devices here, and we definitely aren't talking about stage magic. We are exploring the idea of invisibility and escape as a supreme mastery of pure thought. It's this absolutely fascinating philosophical framework that completely flips how we understand space, energy, and the human mind. So get ready to stretch your imagination as we walk through this incredibly unique perspective, step by step. Now, to really understand a concept this profound, we actually need to start somewhere incredibly relatable. The author begins their journey into the mechanics of invisibility exactly where so many of us do, with childhood fantasies. They recall first learning about the concept from a simple story about a magic gourd that was told by their elementary school teacher. And I love this because it grounds a highly abstract, philosophical idea right in a universal human experience. I mean, we all understand that childhood spark of wonder, right? That desire to just vanish or slip away unseen. But as you'll see, the author didn't just leave this idea in the realm of childhood fairy tales. Because that childhood seed didn't just fade away. As the author matured, their understanding of concealment and escape actually deepened by studying classical mystical literature, specifically monumental epics like Journey to the West and Investiture of the Gods. You know, in these narratives, characters are frequently performing miraculous feats, including vanishing into thin air or escaping these totally impossible situations. And the author wasn't viewing these stories merely as entertaining fiction. Actually, scratch that. They treated them more like early coded blueprints for human potential. They're essentially laying down a foundation of ancient myth before we pivot sharply to the actual mechanics of the mind. So, the crucial point is, when most of us think about hiding or sneaking around, we immediately jump to physical solutions. We think about camouflage, hiding in the shadows, or physical stealth, what the author basically calls physical practice or posture. But here is the radical thesis that upends the whole shebang. True, extraordinary abilities, like concealment, do not lie in the physical realm at all. No way. Instead, they exist entirely within the practice of thought. It's a complete paradigm shift from the body to the mind, arguing that the true marvel lies in the sheer nature of human thinking. Which brings us to a rather astonishing claim. The author states plainly that they have successfully become invisible and escaped. Now, they do clarify that these secrets don't operate strictly within our standard, tangible material world. But outside of those rigid material constraints, the author insists that invisibility is, amazingly enough, very easy. They describe it as requiring nothing more than a fleeting thought. Just imagine that for a second. Not decades of grueling ninja training, not complex technology, but a highly specific momentary mental state.
Let's move to and see how this builds. To understand how a fleeting thought can actually do this, the author introduces an 8-step ladder of thinking. Down at the very bottom is our everyday material thinking. This is our grounded reality, where, a rock is just a rock. But as you climb this ladder through stages like imaginal, associative, elusive, and visualized thinking, things become progressively less tangible. You start moving into higher realms like Taiji and formless thinking. You are literally letting go of physical limitations step by step, with each level being higher and far more profound than the last.
And that brings us to the absolute peak of the ladder, holographic thinking. According to the source, reaching this specific state of consciousness is the ultimate solution. It's the master key to unlocking these mental superpowers. Just think about the word holographic for a moment. It suggests a state of mind where the whole is contained within every tiny part. Your consciousness completely detaches from linear material limits. It's a state where your mind simply isn't bound by your physical dimensions anymore. Mastering this highest level of thought is the singular requirement for true concealment and escape. Now, this mastery leads to a truly fascinating dynamic. The author acknowledges this might sound a little arrogant, but they offer a really logical justification based on their framework. Operating at this higher level allows them to clearly see what others are thinking, what they're going to do, and critically, it lets them see the boundaries of ordinary material thoughts. Conversely, someone who's stuck way down on the bottom rung of the ladder, they simply cannot fathom the mind of someone using holographic thinking. The gap in ability, driven purely by the level of thought, is described as being as vast as the sky and the earth. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how thought translates into invisibility. It all comes down to the underlying physics, or maybe we should call it the metaphysics of the author's philosophy. It's all about the relationship between space, energy, and form. The author posits a very specific rule. In a limited space, if you have a massive amount of energy, it naturally becomes formless. It simply transcends physical boundaries. Conversely, smaller energy remains tangible and solid. Therefore, the secret to disappearing isn't about hiding your physical form at all. It's about shifting your internal energy density through pure thought until your form simply ceases to be tangible in the material plane. To make this crystal clear, the author provides a brilliant mental image. Think about a mountain. Massive, heavy, undeniably real, right? It's the ultimate symbol of solid material reality. But if you could somehow take the immense energy of that entire mountain and compress it using pure thought into a space the size of a tiny matchbox, the energy density would be so absolutely extreme that the mountain would become completely formless, invisible. Take a second to just let the sheer scale of that land. So applying that mountain in a matchbox logic to a human being, the source outlines two extreme, instantaneous methods for achieving invisibility. On one side of the spectrum, a person can use their thought to compress themselves down into a single microscopic cell, infinite density. But on the exact opposite side, a person could expand their thought to absorb the energy of the entire Earth, infinite expansion. Both of these extreme mental maneuvers manipulate energy so drastically relative to space that the physical body just loses its tangibility altogether. I mean, it's a breathtakingly massive scale of mental gymnastics, which naturally leads us to the most pressing question we probably all have right now. Is this difficult? Compressing your energy into a cell, reaching the absolute peak of that thinking ladder, operating outside the material world entirely? I mean, for those of us who struggle just to clear our minds for 5 minutes of meditation, achieving holographic thinking sounds absolutely insurmountable, doesn't it? Yet, the author's answer is surprisingly reassuring. Not really. It isn't inherently difficult at all. The barrier isn't a lack of physical strength or some sort of mystical power. It's literally just our stubborn attachment to physical reality. The whole key lies simply in the transformation of your thinking. If you can successfully let go of the bottom rung of that ladder, if you can just stop conceptualizing yourself as a solid object bound by standard physics, the actual act of concealment, that fleeting thought, becomes completely natural. After describing a mental state that transcends physical reality, allows for compression into a single cell, and separates individuals by a gap as vast as the sky and earth, the author concludes with this incredibly casual thought. The scheme is actually quite fun. If you have some free time, it's worth playing around with. It's such a playful invitation. It frames this profound philosophical exercise not as some grueling duty, but as a fascinating sandbox for the mind. So the next time you find yourself with a free moment, where are you standing on the ladder of thinking? And are you ready to play the game? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning and keep questioning the boundaries of your own thoughts.